Today we're going to be talking about jazz. Natural selection. That's it. We're going to be studying a population of beetles. Trust me, that's a beetle. We're not art majors. The beetles have a gene that codes for musical tastes, with the dominant allele of the gene coding for classical music, and the recessive allele of the gene coding for tastes in jazz music. Here, we can see an example of a beetle expressing the classical taste. And here, we see an example of the beetle expressing the jazz taste in music. Now we observe the musical beetles in their natural habitat. No, not those musical beetles. Recently, a new species of bird has come to live in this exact same habitat. This species of bird is very peculiar in that it has a strong fondness for jazz. So, how do the musical beetles fare against these new and dangerous predators? Well, the jazz beetles actually have gotten along quite well with the new birds, getting together on the weekends to discuss their common musical tastes.
Keep playing your song, young Charlie Parker.
The classical beetles, however, have not had such luck. The birds dislike the classical beetles so much, in fact, that they go on a murderous rampage. In fact, this wholesale slaughter of the classical beetles continues on for generations and generations. So what does any of this have to do with natural selection? In fact, what is natural selection anyway? Well, it's a change in frequency of biological traits, such as a beetle's musical tastes, in a population by passing off these traits onto new generations. There are three things needed for natural selection to occur. First, there must be a variation of traits in the population. In this case, the beetles have genetically different music tastes. Second, those traits need to be produced by heritable alleles. In this case, the classical trait is produced by a dominant allele of a gene, and the jazz trait is produced by a recessive allele of the same gene. Third, the trait must affect the reproductive fitness of a species. This is certainly the case. You can't very well make babies when a giant disgruntled bird has crushed you to death with a saxophone, just because you can't help but play the one type of music that sends him into a murderous rampage.
And now let's talk about natural selection and you. Here we see our two test subjects. They're computer science majors working on a program. Billy here has advanced knowledge about natural selection. Melvin, on the other hand, decided to play video games instead of learning about this important idea. Now let's give each of our scientists a problem and see how they make a solution. Billy here was able to create an excellent solution using his knowledge of natural selection. By playing God a little bit, he was able to go in and speed up the evolutionary process by selecting which parts of the problem were working and which one weren't working, thus only leaving the best parts. Now let's check up on Melvin. Uh-oh, Melvin didn't have any knowledge of natural selection, and instead, his problem crashed and burned. Remember kids, everything you learn is applicable. Thank you and good night.